Welcome back to IGN Live. I'm Brian Altano. This is Paul from South Park, The Fractured Butthole.
The Fractured Butthole.
I never stop getting bored of saying that game title.
I still enjoy watching people figure it out. Because you think they get it straight away, but not always. It takes a few moments, and I'm sure in the comments section you're going to get the same thing.
Yep.
People go, oh.
It always takes a second.
Butthole.
I think you guys have an elaborate multi-million-dollar plan here to get people to say butthole as much as possible. So I'm super into that. We're taking a look at the game right now. You are not watching the TV show. I always have to remind people, this is what the game looks like. I don't know how you pull that off, but it's so cool.
Well, so actually, we spent a tremendous amount of time working on technology that literally takes South Park's assets straight into Snowdrop. So the very clever guys back home in San Francisco actually developed this tech using Snowdrop, where the South Park artists, the same guys that work on the show, are working on the game. And they're able to create these assets just as they do for the show. And we take those rigs and we take those textures and plug them right in. And they appear in the game.
That's so cool. And it's funny to hear you call them textures. I mean, that's what they are, but when you think of a texture, you think of like this really HD brick wall or something that somebody blows up in a video game. But here, it's a paper cutout of a toilet that a boy poops in.
Yes. And again, you say we're spending many millions of dollars getting a lot of people to say butthole.
Yes.
But we're having very, very serious meetings about farts.
Are you having serious meetings about farts?
We do. We have to discuss how you control the farts. Because it's not just as, you don't just press a button.
You can't just press a button for a fart. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, obviously. I don't know a lot about game design, but I'm learning.
So when he jumped on the toilet there, one of the things that you can actually do, we call total arse control. So you clench, so you're pulling both triggers.
Yep.
And then at that point, the sticks are controlling, it's kind of like, think of it as each one is controlling a cheek.
Okay, I was going to ask you that, and I'm really glad you got to say that, and I didn't. So you are controlling butt cheeks with these shoulder buttons.
Yes.
That's a sentence I got to say at work today.
So you get to pull them tight,
Yep.
clench.
Pull in the butt cheeks tight, clench.
And then at that point, you can shape your fart.
Shape your fart.
Which is... I don't know why you're laughing. This is serious.
I'm sorry. You're right.
This
Video
is
games
work.
are very serious. So you can shape... I can't believe I'm going to ask you this. Can you also shape your poops?
You can indeed.
You can shape your poops in this game.
Yes. Finally.
Is that an IGN exclusive?
I think I may have just... Yes.
We just confirmed exclusively on IGN that you can shape your poops in South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Using these cheek buttons. That's... What? How... I have no further questions.
And that's it. It is, so it's always been a dream of Matt and Trey. That you can really feel that. Make the most visceral farting action you could possibly have.
I'm almost afraid to ask you what the other buttons do.
I wouldn't press them if I was you. Have you tried the Nautilus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your viewers about what that is?
No. What? Do you want to talk about that? Because I think it's weird. We've had that sort of smell-o-vision idea going. It's been kind of a joke since I feel like since the Jetsons.
Well, we've cracked it.
You've cracked it.
Again, no pun intended. So the Nautilus, it's the Nautilus Rift. You put it on your face, right up on your nose.
Yep.
And brilliantly, again, the engineers have figured out a way that when you fart in the game, you can smell it.
So, like all art, the first question I'll ask you is why?
Why not?
I mean, usually I'll put it this way, usually people don't want to smell the farts.
But you want to be in it and get the most authentic experience you possibly could.
But do you?
Well, yes.
You really want to have your face
the line at the booth.
Is this something people can experience at home someday? I mean...
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So the future is getting closer. The technology is right within our reach, and our farts are almost in our faces.
Right, exactly. And remember, once you can smell it, it's truly inside you.
Because it's in your mouth.
Exactly.
That's disgusting. How did you put farts in? What am I asking? How did you get the smell of a fart into the Nautilus Rift?
So we actually had real perfume engineers.
I thought you were going to say we had real people fart.
Well, I guess that they had to do the research to make sure they could make an authentic smell.
Perfume engineers, so like people that smell like colognes and fragrances, you told them to take a day and just smell human farts.
Yeah, have you read the book Perfume?
No.
Okay, so when you read that...
I didn't know I was getting book recommendations.
Outside of the slightly strange serial killer aspect of that book.
Yes.
No spoiler, sorry. Yes, you have to go through and do the research and think about what the content of that fart is going to be.
Got it.
To create that correct pungent aroma.
Now, your game is more than just farts,
It is, yes.
which is, the comments might say otherwise. But you guys have actually switched genres this time.
Right, so the game takes place like straight after Stick of Truth. So it starts off and they're still playing Stick of Truth, but then the game gets switched up. So they start to play superheroes. I have to be very, very careful not to spoil the story because nobody wants that. But right here, actually, you're seeing that Cartman lets you join in reluctantly. And at that point, you need to start developing your backstory because every superhero needs a tragic backstory.
Right. And how do you do that? Is that something you can kind of customize, or is it sort of on autopilot?
Right, so the cool thing is, when you play an RPG and you choose a class and you're going, what the hell does all this do? And you're trying to figure it out. So what we come up with is this idea that you go into your story of each class. So then that actually shows you the moves in context, so you start to learn how to use these pieces. And Cartman's talking you through it. So I haven't seen your footage yet, but he's narrating, which is essentially telling you what you're supposed to do. So if you don't leave your room, he gets a little upset, a little irate.
So does this take place in a universe where these characters are familiar with the superheroes we have in reality?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're able to make fun of a lot of the characters that we've seen in Marvel and DC films.
Yes.
Was that a good sort of opportunity for you guys to inject your own sort of interpretations of what you felt those films were lacking in real life?
So, I mean, if you've ever watched South Park, you know the main thing they're doing is taking the piss.
Yes.
As we say back home.
Which we still don't really understand in America. Why would you take the
Mickey?
piss? Taking the Mickey?
Yeah, well, why would you smell a fart?
I
These
don't
are
know.
all
I don't
questions.
smell farts. That's you're doing that.
So each of these moments, they're trying to play off those stereotypes and poke fun at things that are kind of ridiculous.
So what do we have here? We have two burglars that broke into this kid's house?
Right, so in the backstory, you've heard your mum calling for help. I think she's calling for help. We'll have to find out at the end of this sequence. And it's stepping you through each of the moves. So the burglars are coming to the house. You're going to see another one come out the bathroom, because when people break in, they tend to politely use the bathroom.
So this guy went to steal from this guy's house, and then he just went and used the toilet?
I haven't got to his full backstory yet, but yeah, I guess he may be leaving things behind as opposed to taking them away.
I think his backstory is in the toilet right now.
So here what you're going to see is actually he's going to use one of his ultimate moves. So every class has 3 main powers, plus then an ultimate which charges up during the combat, which is normally a wonderful way of finishing somebody off.
It's very awesome to see that sort of the dreamlike wonder of being a child and having an imagination and playing stuff with your friends, meeting the lack of sophistication that comes with being a disgusting human adult.
Well, children can be quite disgusting too.
They can, but they don't really know it.
That's the beauty.
They're
like
little petri dishes of disease, and they just kind of walk around and fart and pee everywhere. You can put that on the pod. I don't have kids yet myself.
I was going to say, they're not that bad. You can train them out of that. So part of what you love about South Park is how they take something that's relatively mundane, just kids playing, and it tends to get caught up in a bigger and bigger and more real conspiracy. And so exactly that again, you're going to go through something that's the kids just playing, and that'll get interwoven with real important grown-up issues.
Yeah. Now, one of the really interesting things that I loved about Stick of Truth was that you guys mapped out the town of South Park for the first time, which I was kind of surprised that the show itself hadn't done that. But now we actually have a lay of the land. Was there anything along the lines in this game where you were like, this is the first time we've ever actually had to answer this question?
Outside of the smell of a fart.
Yes, outside of the smell of the fart.
So, we've had a lot of interesting things in terms of how do you incorporate the animation, how do we work on timing, because comedy is nothing without good timing.
Right.
And that's been a challenge, I think is a nice way of saying it. Making video games is hard. So trying to find good moments where you can get a laugh out of something that is still gameplay and you're still in control, and trying to find that balance between when we want to put you in a situation where you are watching something versus when you are truly playing. Trying to intersperse comedy into the fights, so you'll hear the boys quipping back and forth and having banter as they're fighting, and thinking about the relationships they have, so that they're not just saying, "Yeah, forget you, bro." It's not that. It's about them knowing each other as human beings. It's amazing talking to Matt and Trey about the characters in the world, that they are so real. And of course, we as viewers, it's fairly easy to say, oh, he wouldn't say that. But their depth of knowledge about what these characters would be doing, how they would be existing, is something else.
Now, we saw actually sort of some platforming elements there, like a sort of a little more verticality in the game. Will you be able to lean into some of the characters' superhero traits to explore the world a little more?
Right, so as you play through, you're going to get different buddies. You're going to increase your team, and some of those are going to unlock different buddy powers, as we call them. So there you saw Fart Core, which...
Fart Core?
Yes.
Okay, is that like, that's farting parkour?
Exactly.
Okay, that's like double dangerous.
Especially if you've got the Nautilus on. So that allows you to access different parts of the world. So again, we have mapped out the town of South Park. We now have a number of additional blocks. It is quite a bit larger than the first game. And each of those is packed full of secrets and things to discover. Sometimes funny, sometimes very useful to your superhero abilities.
Right. Now, one of my favorite things in the last game were the boss fights, specifically one against, I'll just say it, an aborted fetus. Are we going to be interacting with anything on that level in this game?
I can say yes, and that's about it.
Okay, interesting. I like that approach. Also, one of my favorite things about The Stick of Truth was that it was about like 9 or 10 or 12 hours long, which I felt was kind of perfect for an RPG. Like, we're all kind of busy. I love a good 80-hour RPG, but it's also nice to be able to fly through something in a dozen hours. Can you say around, if this game kind of hovers around the same time?
I think what's more than play length, what's important is the story and the jokes are really tight.
Yeah.
So getting that flow and that rhythm of the main experience, like the spine of the game, is really, really important. What we're also trying to do, though, is make sure that the game doesn't just stop. So you're going to continue to be able to play in the world and actually explore and enjoy it, like probably beyond the main story.
So sort of like a New Game Plus, or just more stuff to go back and find?
Again, can't say exact details, which is always fun for these conversations.
Well, it's my job to try.
But more stuff to go and find. Lots of interesting battles around the town.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's what I really appreciate about these games, is that they are based on a 22-minute long cartoon that doesn't have a lot of bloat, because inherently just with the way it's spaced out, it's got to be quick moving and fun and punchy, and you're able to capture that in this game. So does that mean there's a lot of cutting things down, or like breaking hearts, losing parts that you thought were really important? And
welcome to making video games.
Yeah.
So there are loads of things that will hit the cutting room, hit the floor. That's just a fact of life. What's really important, and it's actually a large part of my job, is to make sure that we're getting rid of the right things.
Yeah.
So talking to Matt and Trey, talking to the team, we've got a great lead designer and team back home, where we really got to pick and choose those moments. So some of the things that we have to contend with is thinking about how the characters act. So these guys aren't 3D. This is a 2D game.
Right.
And that in itself is an adjustment and a different way of thinking. So when you want somebody to punch someone, you go, okay, in a 3D game, you get that punch just right, and then you can spin them around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that. We get it in one direction,
and
then you've got to build it in the other direction, and then the other direction.
And that changes things like hit detection, and it's just the way combat works. How are Matt and Trey to work with? Because it seems like they're very well versed in working on something on a 5-day schedule, and video games do not work like that at all.
No. So I think we were lucky insofar as they'd been around it once. So they'd actually gone through and made a AAA title before, so they got to experience some of that.
And obviously it wasn't that hellish, because they came back and decided to do it again.
Right. It was certainly successful. I mean, the game was great.
Yeah.
I know some of the first meetings we had with them was talking about how good the game was and why it was good, and being able to then say, well, what are we going to do differently? So working with them has been, I mean, it's a bit of a boyhood dream come true, but for the last 20 years we've been watching South Park and enjoying it, and so to sit there in the same room as them and have these conversations, then they're creative geniuses, like absolutely no doubt. It's amazing how funny they actually are. And when sitting in the writer's room, if you ever watched 6 Days to Air,
yes, awesome.
So we work in that writer's room, And
That's
having,
so cool.
seeing Trey just walking around thinking, and then starting to just go for it, and reeling off lines and just coming up with a script right there, and then going like, okay, I'm gonna go and write, and he will just leave.
There's that sort of moment where you're like, well, they're quiet right now, and that's good,
Yep.
because quiet means the calm before the storm where all the ideas come. And then it's your job to implement them.
Right. So when a script arrives, that's where it goes through our writing teams. We have a writing team in San Francisco as well. Then making sure everything's going into the game correctly and it's all completed, as well as writing many of the quips and the interstitial lines. So then they're going to digest that script. We're going to try and spot what's changed, what's different to what we had previously, perhaps, because obviously iteration is a big part.
Yeah.
And then start to filter those changes out and start to echo them through the game.
All right. Well, when can people play this?
December.
December. In December, Fractured Butthole, you can control the farts using the cheeks. That's a thing you can do. I'm Brian, this is Paul, this is IGN right here at Gamescom. We'll be covering games all week long, so don't move. Unless you have to go to the bathroom, then definitely move.